Shoah, directed by Claude Lazemin, is a documentary describing the Holocaust through the first-hand accounts of witnesses, survivors, and workers. The film took 11 years to make, from 1997 to 1985, and is over 9 hours long. Traveling to 14 different countries, Lazemin brings you along as he meets with those who most intimately involved with one of the world's greatest tragedies. Though, with filming starting over 20 years after the war ended, Lazemin's film also highlights the lengths the Nazis went to hide the existence of their manufactured death, as well as the strengths and faults that come with first-hand accounts. The first issue that arises for anyone wishing to research in the inner workings of the Nazi regime is that information, especially surrounding the killing of Jews, was incredibly well encoded. Raoul Hilberg, a Holocaust historian in the film, says that Nazis intentionally didn't use wording like secret or kill, or even words like prisoner or victim, as to avoid future suspicion or conviction. When speaking of the final solution, or total solution, of killing of the Jewish population, these people were referred to as cargo, or the load, and the act of extermination was called the process, or the final solution to the Jewish question. No one, whether it was in written or oral instruction, was told outright what was happening. People who were relocated to camps such as Auschwitz or Treblinka were told they'd be helping with a secret mission, or told a completely different lie altogether. Franz Suchomel, a Nazi overseer of the Treblinka extermination camp, said that when he was assigned the job, he wasn't told what he would be doing. He said he was told, "Mr. Suchomel, there are big workshops there for tailors and shoemakers, and you'll be guarding them." Though he claimed that he knew the Nazis were resettling Jews, he had no prior knowledge of their extermination. Walter Stier, a member of the Nazi Party, says that though he managed trains operating under the Nazi control, he didn't know about the final solution. He knew that resettlement trains called special trains were used to move Jews and went to certain locations and came back empty, but he said he assumed they were concentration camps. Stier also told Lazemin that you would only talk about the special trains if you were tired of life, insinuating that even though workers weren't informed of the death camps, talking about anything that had to do with them resulted in punishment or worse. Alternatively, much of the physical evidence, buildings, dead bodies, and documentation were so thoroughly disposed of that they were unrecognizable 20 years later if they still existed at all. This resulted in little physical evidence of just how and where the Holocaust took place, leaving only personal accounts of how over 400,000 people were killed in cold blood. Another issue Claude Lazemin certainly confronted was the positives and negatives of witness testimony. Soho relied heavily on first and second-hand accounts of events that had limited evidence of their occurrence. This is where he gathered most of his evidence and saw the main focus of the film. He did manage to find and speak to many people like Mordecai Povchepnik and Simon Shremnik, who were the only two survivors of the communal experimentation camp, as well as people directly involved in their operation, like Franz Suchomel, a Nazi overseer at Treblinka. Though this allowed for first-hand intimate recounts of events from both the victims and the perpetrators, the events they spoke of happened no less than 20 years prior and could have been muddled or warped with time. To combat this issue, Lazemin tries to meet and speak to as many people as he can. Though multiple accounts of the same event help to bolster an opinion, there are limited survivors of the death camps to recount their experiences. Because the witness pool is so limited, and becomes more limited as time goes on, Lazemin struggles to find willing participants to interview. The instance of Joseph Oberhauser, a low-ranking SS commander who refused to comment beyond "I have my reasons, and I'd rather not," is an example of a valued participant who simply refused to make a statement, and therefore his perspective dies with him. This becomes more complicated when the limited witness pool recounts events or facts differently, further blurring the lines between fact and fiction. An example of this is the official court reports after the war, indicating that during its height, Treblinka could liquidate 18,000 people. However, Suchomel deems this an exaggeration and too high a number. He says that 12,000 or 15,000 is more accurate. In this instance, who are you meant to believe? Thankfully, many statements made by multiple different parties are comparatively similar to each other, allowing for greater certainty in the statement as a fact. A great example of this is Franz Suchomel's description of the funnel, a man-made tunnel/hallway that led to the gas chambers. He also said that the Germans called it the road to heaven, a statement that Abraham Bomba, a Jewish barber who worked in the special detail, all but confirms. Their descriptions being almost identical also helps to strengthen both statements, especially since they come from conflicting sides of history. However, with such a limited testimony pool, many statements could neither corroborate nor weaken the other. When interviewing Philip Mueller, he says the 4th and 5th crematoriums in Birkenau had a capacity of 18,000 to 2,000 people. However, in a previous statement by Franz Schuckermel, he said the crematoriums at Treblinka could hold only 200 people at most. Though both are death camps, such a difference in number despite them operating at the same time casts doubt on both statements. This is where the issue of bias comes to play. Schuckermel might be lowering the amount, intentionally or otherwise, to make the process sound the least bit better than it was. Alternatively, Mueller may be inflating the number so as to make the Nazis appear worse. Maybe because Mueller worked in the special detail and he had a first-hand account of the event, the trauma had changed the memory. Schuckermel, someone who often explained that he didn't see much, if any, of the killings himself, could be undermining the number due to a lack of exposure. With no true way of confirming nor denying either statement, Lazeman is forced to take both at face value. Another issue with using the testimonies of individuals is that the information they provide is based on the perspective of the experiences of that individual. This leaves a lot of gaps and unknowns when trying to paint the picture of what exactly happened. This issue, compiled onto an over 20-year-old memory that has very few comparative records, causes reasonable doubt. Polish witnesses Lazeman interviewed often spoke more to the public opinion of Jewish Poles and what they thought about the killing of Jews than they did about what the Nazis were doing from an outside perspective. Many weren't able to provide details beyond knowing that the Nazis were killing Jewish people. Overall, with the limited knowledge and documentation of the Nazi death camps, Lazeman's Shoah is a very important film. With the vast majorities of those interviewed having passed on, this record of their stories is a priceless piece of history. Raoul Hilberg, when talking about the train logs containing special trains taking Jews to and from death camps, said that
it's an artifact, it's a leftover, it's the only leftover there is.
Yes.
The dead are not around.
This summarizes the importance of such documentation. Hitler tried desperately to eliminate the existence of the Jewish people. To leave their stories to be forgotten is to make that goal a reality. Though testimonies have their faults, these stories are an important part of our history that is otherwise undocumented. As humans, we work to preserve and remember all aspects of history, and such human suffering, though tragic, should be remembered. Thankfully, that is why Lazeman went through such great lengths to do just that.